Well, it is part one of the week 4 preview here on the Audible. It's Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. And hey, no, regardless of your record, you got to get your starters right. We're here to talk about all of these games in this preview as we do every single week. And as we've done for the last 20 years, Thursday night football, sometimes some scorchers, sometimes Seattle and Arizona. I don't know how to feel about this one, Bloom. Not sure if it's going to be a scorcher. Don't think it's going to be a stinker. And really, that comes down to the Seattle side. Arizona side, too, we'll get to in a little bit. But let's talk Seahawks football and the fantasy assets you'd be looking to.
Big divisional matchup here. Every team a winning record in the NFC West right now, and divisional matchups in the NFC West are low-scoring games so far. So this is what we would expect in this game. Not a fantasy bonanza, but Sam Darnold's playing better than expected, and that's meaning Jackson Smith and Jigba is a top 5 option. I don't think we're going to look at Cooper Kupp or Torrey Horton here, but we are going to watch to see if Torrey Horton is going to emerge as a better fantasy option than Cooper Kupp. He certainly has more to offer, I think, in the downfield passing game. Sounds like Zach Charbonnet is going to be okay. Kind of mysterious that he was doubtful last week with the foot, and now he's back to estimated full practices as they're doing walkthroughs. But I think we're going to see, I don't think we're going to see Kenneth Walker get over 30 or 35 snaps in any game. I just don't think they want to push him like that. Even last week, we saw George Holani get those touches. So, Charbonnet, a deep what the heck flex here, and otherwise still back on our injury upside running backs. But, for Seattle, I think Mike McDonald and company, this has been a successful start to the season. Even though they lost that first game at home to San Francisco. And they're going to assert that they have a role to play, not just in the NFC West East, but I think in the NFC playoffs and maybe even as a Super Bowl contender if Darnold keeps playing like this.
Every fantasy GM wants to know, what in the world do you do with Marvin Harrison
Right?
Jr.?
Yeah, and the thing is, again, Harrison was free for, I don't know, like a 70 or 80-yard touchdown. He turned around and could field it like a punt. And instead he fielded it like, your Troy Williamson. And I think with Harrison, this is what you get, a boom bust wide receiver 3 flex, but against a tough Seattle defense, you're probably putting him on the bench. It's just Trey McBride and then Trey Benson. And that's the main thing we're going to watch here is Trey Benson as a 3-down back and how much he can handle, whether he can match the physicality of this Seattle defense. And of course, Seattle's going to get after Kyler Murray, who's been a pretty limp fantasy option so far this year. They got out to big leads and then had faced, again, a low-scoring NFC West matchup, so another low-scoring matchup here in Kyler Murray. Not a quarterback one. If you like defense, though, you'll probably like this game.
Yeah, how about this game? Minnesota and Pittsburgh. Now, we'll put a pin in the neurotic Steelers portion of this program to talk about the Vikings, because what in the world can we really learn about Carson Wentz, Jordan Mason? I have more faith in Mason than Wentz, based on last week's game against Cincinnati. This time it's against Pittsburgh. It's on the road. Thoughts, expectations, beliefs for the Vikings this week?
Yeah, out in Ireland. And Carson Wentz, doors opening a little bit to Wentz taking over. Kevin O'Connell's language is not exactly definitive about when J.J. McCarthy's going to start again, and this should be another game where Wentz should look good against the Steelers' defense. Also getting back Jordan Addison, potentially that Justin Jefferson ceiling game. It just takes the Steelers actually staying in the game. Jordan Addison, maybe not right in the lineup, but certainly makes Wentz a better streamer. TJ Hawkinson is a good tight end play this week, again, making Wentz a better streamer. And then there's Jordan Mason. Steelers' run defense firmed up a little bit with the return of the debut of first-round pick Derek Harmon. So we'll see if they can slow down Jordan Mason. But just based on the Steelers' defense, we've seen, sees what is the score last week if they don't get 5 turnovers. How does that game turn out? I know we've seen Wentz have some turnover fests in the past, but this is a Kevin O'Connell offense, a balanced offense. They did lose an offensive lineman, Donovan Jackson, but Christian Jerisaw is back. So I think that makes a bigger difference than the loss. And Aaron Rodgers wanted to play for the Vikings, it appeared, Cease, but now he's going to have to face them in Ireland.
Okay, face him in Ireland, and what will he do there? Not necessarily a revenge game. I don't know what it is. Plus, the Ireland games, again, this one's going to be super early Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Get your coffee ready.
Your Irish coffee ready. Your frozen Irish coffee. There's some good places down here. Yeah. And Dan Rooney, of all the different Steelers figureheads, I think he's one of the most beloved. He was actually, I think he was the ambassador to Ireland at one point.
He was, yes.
So, there's some connections here for the Steelers, but will there be connections in the passing game? Because, boy, the Vikings defense is tough. So I guess you're going to go with Jalen Warren just on volume, but this isn't necessarily a DK Metcalf or a Calvin Austin game. This is a game where you want to keep that red-hot Vikings defense in. And I just think this is a game where you're going to see that Carson Wentz, even though he was available on the street in August, may be a more capable quarterback of pushing the ball downfield than Aaron Rodgers and an Arthur Smith offense.
Yeah, we'll continue to put a pin in that. Continue to watch the injury report. Washington and Atlanta. We're recording this on Wednesday morning, full disclosure. So we're going to have to wait to see if Jaden Daniels is out there. And then I guess they're going to use 3 backs. So thank you for that, Washington.
4 if you count Deebo Samuel. And we're probably going to see Samuel in lineups this week because Terry McLaurin doubtful, seeking a second opinion with that quad injury. So you expect Deebo to be a focal point of the passing game, whether it is Marcus Mariota or Jaden Daniels. Mariota, good streamer. Daniels, if he's on the field, he has to be in your lineup. Atlanta's defense, they look good against J.J. McCarthy. But again, this starts to make you wonder, is that really more about McCarthy? And so not really scared of this defense that looks like they might be starting to come on. And the way Mariota played last week, way Mariota played last year, they don't have to rush Jaden Daniels back. So we'll just watch and see how this goes. I don't think that it changes your outlook on Deebo or really Zach Ertz, who probably should be in with McLaurin out. And then we're going to watch Jalen Lane, who had the 90-yard punt return. Luke McCaffrey had a long touchdown last week. So we'll see if some of those youngsters can step up with one Terry McLaurin hurting right now.
Why isn't Michael Penix good? And did they bench him? Or are they going to Kirk Cousins completely? Or was it just wagging a finger? You got to go to your room now, Michael Penix, for a game, and then we'll bring you back this week.
Yeah, I think it's he wasn't right, and it's just going to do more damage. At a certain point, you just say it's better for your psyche to sit down, and you hope, because we've seen Michael Penix look fine and comfortable on an NFL field already in basically every game we watched him. So I'm not really sure what happened against Carolina. I don't think Carolina's defense has just woken up.
Right.
And the other thing is, and if it's bad in this game, then we really should be worried, because Washington's secondary was one we wanted to pick on already, and they had 4 injuries. 4 injuries in this. They're probably going to have to play guys off the street in this game. So if Penix can't have success, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, who had those 2 drops, and the kind of veteran he is, he's going to atone for that this week. And of course, Kyle Pitts, whose role continues to be larger. You want to have all these pieces in, and then Penix is a good streamer. Maybe I don't think Atlanta's defense can be good enough for them to just lean on the running game like they did against J.J. McCarthy. So I would expect, it's more of a Bijan Robinson game than a Tyler Algier game. And a big test for Michael Penix, because if he can't do it against the secondary, it is time to get worried.
It is time to get worried. What about New Orleans? New Orleans against Buffalo in this one. And quarterback change coming or no for that team? And against the Bills, who could put up 35 easily, does that mean step on the gas? Do the Bills themselves know, hey, those guys like a turtle on their back offensively, so let's just run the ball all day? This one could be 35-10 Bills, but it might just be 17-3 Bills. What do you think?
Right. The little team that could, the Saints, ran out of gas last week against Seattle, but you do see Spencer Rattler still throwing lots of short targets to Chris Olave, to Juwan Johnson. Rashid Shaheed, the downfield stuff just isn't there, so he's not really even much of the what the heck flex. And yeah, you wonder, it's not that the reason they're losing is Spencer Rattler, okay? It's just they have a lot of problems on this roster, a lot of problems here. So, even Alvin Kamara is running his heart out, barely getting involved in the passing game. So he is not even a sure thing, as we have more running backs taking over. So you have tougher choices at running back. But like you said, Cecil, you expect Buffalo to control this game. The question is whether Buffalo's pass offense, can do enough before this game gets out of hand.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Well, Buffalo Bills, are you going to put your foot on the gas immediately, or is it just going to be a ton of James Cook?
Yeah, and it is going to be a ton of James Cook either way. And I think that what you have here, and this is a team that has been built to win the Super Bowl, and that means balance and a running game, winter football. So by the way, Ray Davis should be on every roster because he fits that mentality if James Cook were to go down. And then so far through 3 weeks, it's Dalton Kincaid. The one guy we can rely on in this pass offense is Dalton Kincaid. So he's a tight end one. But Khalil Shakir is kind of safe, but the ceiling game's probably not going to happen here. For Keon Coleman, you need a touchdown because, again, the passing volume just isn't going to be that high when it doesn't have to be because this team is balanced and because, this is a team that sees it's a marathon, not a sprint, and they're built for it.
They are built for it. 4 games down, 4 games to go in part 1 of the Week 4 preview here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, 20 years. And have the Browns been good in their 20 years? Wait, what, the Kelly Holcomb days?
What
right?
an epic playoff game that was with
Yes,
but then Cleveland came back and beat the Steelers in the playoffs somewhat recently.
Right.
So as long as it's the Steelers-Browns rivalry, there's some good memories there. And the Cleveland Guardians are about to pull off, if they can finish this out, the greatest comeback to win a division in Major League Baseball history. They were down like 15 and a half games. So you got that going for you, Cleveland.
And that concludes our baseball talk for the day. Now, they also have a damn great defense. It's the Lions. That defense is going to get tested. And what does it mean for Joe Flacco? It's nice to see him show some emotion besides the look of, I have painful gas. So, okay, Cleveland, see what you got.
See what you got against the Detroit pass rush that sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times. That's only happened once before in Jackson's history against the Steelers, back when the Steelers defense was good. Remember that, Cecil, when we were young men?
That was awesome.
Yeah. So, I think you're just a lot of Quinshon Judkins as long as the game script allows for that. That's the question here. Is Detroit, really when we're analyzing the Cleveland side, is Detroit going to be successful on offense enough to force Joe Flacco to throw? And that's whenever, is it Njoku or Fannin? Is, Judy, Tillman, and now Isaiah Bond? I don't think you're counting on anyone in this passing game because it's not going to be a passing game that makes big plays. And now this is a fearsome Detroit pass rush. Kelvin Shepherd, see, everyone talked about Aaron Glenn leaving, but Kelvin Shepherd's, this defense looks better, even better. And he has some of the best press conferences. If you haven't watched him yet, imagine if Marcellus Wallace was from Georgia and an NFL defensive coordinator. That's a Kelvin Shepherd press conference. He has our attention. He's going to have Joe Flacco's attention.
1000%. Who else has our attention? David Montgomery, who was on my bench in Fessel Alpha. It's the reason why I'm 1-2 Bloom. So, yeah, probably be putting him in the lineup this week. And we'll see what the Lions can do against that tough Browns defense.
Yeah, and it's not an easy call. I might not advise people to put Montgomery in the lineup simply because you cannot run on the Browns. That much we know this year. You cannot run on the Browns. Now, maybe the Lions running game shows that they can be the ones to break through, but they weren't able to run on the Packers. So I think this is going to have to hinge on Jared Goff. But again, with this pass rush, this is a good defense. And I've been corrected. Thanks, folks out there. Lamar Jackson was picking on Denzel Ward's replacement, but otherwise it wasn't like the Ravens Ravens offense put up a lot of yardage and moved the ball easily against the Browns. So I don't know. I mean, this is a great test of John Morton. Again, we're going to miss Ben Johnson. Actually, Jared Goff's highest passer rating under any offensive coordinator's career is the games he's played with John Morton so far. This is a test to see if they can make it happen against one of the best defenses in the league. Did not happen in week 1. I think you're going to see a lot of short passing here. Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. Maybe a few shot plays that you set up for Jamison Williams, but probably better to leave Williams on the bench. It's going to be coming around for Jamison Williams. Don't worry, this offense is humming, but I think they have to be in a more resourceful mode to move the ball against this Browns defense.
Yeah, that one's going to be a fun one. This next one, perhaps not as fun. So Carolina and the Patriots, lipstick on a pig, something, I'm not sure. Sell me on the Panthers this week, Bloom. If you can.
If I can, yeah. I mean, the Patriots' pass defense has been somewhat deficient. The Steelers didn't really test them downfield, but in the first 2 weeks, there was a lot of downfield stuff. A lot of, I think they gave up the most big plays in the passing game of any defense. So, it's Tedero and McMillan and nobody really. Jalen Coker, come and save us. Come off of IR and save us in week 5, maybe coming soon to a waiver wire show near you. So a lot of Chuba Hubbard, as long as this game can stay close. And it should, because we did see Carolina's defense resurgent. Not sure how much of that was Michael Penix ate the fish airplane. Watch it. You'll know what I'm talking about. And, are we going to see a good Bryce Young game? Because we've only seen him really be productive in garbage time against Arizona. He didn't need to be productive last week. But with the lack of targets in the passing game, how can he be productive? Maybe, again, it'll be a lot of Chuba Hubbard, a lot of balance. And I think Carolina probably wants to keep this game low scoring.
TreVeyon Henderson never going to play?
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson fumbling, Antonio Gibson fumbling, TreVeyon Henderson GMs are just waiting. We're like Judge Smalls. We're waiting. There you go. You did Airplane, I'll do Caddyshack, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're waiting. How many more 80s references? Let's talk about Stripes and Meatballs, or how about we just talk about Drake May?
Yeah, Drake May having to play hero ball, and for fantasy, that's fine. But the progress we were looking for from this offense under Josh McDaniels with these additions still looks like last year's offense. Not a lot of help. Not a lot of help with this rebuild offensive line. Not a lot of help with all these new wide receivers. It's Hunter Henry, actually. And Carolina's had trouble covering the tight end, so Hunter Henry is a top play this week. Otherwise, you have, Kayshon Boutte as a what-the-heck flex hoping for a touchdown. Stephon Diggs not getting the volume you're looking for. Mac Hollins still playing a role. Demario Douglas is still playing a role, but nobody's roles are large enough to be able to move the needle for fantasy. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice last week, including once at the goal line. Antonio Gibson fumbles. Is this TreVeyon Henderson's shot? And more importantly, can he do anything with it? With Derek Brown back, the Panthers' run defense isn't as easy to pick on as it was last year when Brown was out. So, this is a game where, again, you can look glass half full. Well, geez, if the Patriots don't have all those turnovers, they might have beaten the Steelers by a decent margin last week. But the turnovers embody the ineptitude, how things aren't coming together for this offense. And again, this is a Panthers defense that frustrated Michael Penix last week.
It's frustrating. This next game, though, has plenty of excitement because of the Giants making a switch at quarterback. And then just the Chargers, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. All hail Justin Herbert as a incredible quarterback, and all hail Greg Roman for changing. What? Okay. But lighting it up through the air. Morrow, Marion, Hampton, because they have to with no Najee Harris. We'll see if that young man can hold on to the ball. But the Chargers, undefeated, looking to march on and continue being undefeated against the Giants.
Trap game, maybe. I mean, Jim
You
Harbaugh.
think?
I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that that's what you have to be on guard for if you're the Chargers.
On the road, across the country, right?
Right. And I think that Jim Harbaugh has this team prepared. So, yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert against the Giants secondary, love it. Allen's in your lineup. Quentin Johnson's in your lineup. There's going to be a correction game coming for Ladd McConkey, maybe against this secondary. He's due. Marion Hampton, this is his backfield. And as my guest on the couch, Dustin Scott Royer said yesterday, you could see that Hampton was more tentative when he was sharing with Najee Harris, but once he knew it was his backfield, he was a different back, and they called more gap runs, so just like see hole, hit hole. But the runner like Marion Hampton, that's the attitude.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's the approach you want. And then we're just going to watch see if Aronde Gadsden can hold on to this role with Will Disley being out that opened the door for him. And as you pointed out, Cease, very, very astutely, 2 of his catches were the first 2 plays of the game-winning drive. And Justin Herbert put that ball into tight windows and trusted his rookie. More trustworthy than Travis Kelce at this point, probably. May have more fantasy value than Travis Kelce. The best fantasy tight end, second best because of Brock Bowers, sorry. So it's definitely not Evan Engram. And they're going to need tight ends, wide receivers. They're going to need everybody to help out Jackson Dart this week to have a good debut.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't believe in the coaching staff there. Jackson Dart reminds me of Drew Lock. Got that big arm, gonna play, just gonna attack you, not really even think, which can be a double-edged sword, of course. But the Giants just kind of a mystery now. And obviously there should be an edict, an absolute mandate of just go to Malik Neighbors all the time, please and thank you.
Yeah, although Malik Neighbors himself said the first wide receiver in the history of wide receivers, Cease, to say maybe we should look to the other guys too. So,
somebody plays fantasy football.
Yeah, and I mean Andrew Thomas is back, so maybe they only played 25 snaps last week. He did their starting left tackle. Maybe that ramps up this week. Maybe that's why they've been waiting. He's got some tough matchups coming up after this, though. And like you said, Cease, we don't trust the Giants organization. I was talking to our dear mutual friend Matt Waldman yesterday, and Cease, speaking of the Chargers, I said I want to craft a fantasy football strategy next year that is just like these 8 or 10 or 12 organizations are good organizations. They coach their players well. They use players in a way that sets them up for success. So just draft fantasy football players from these teams and just see how that goes, because the Giants are definitely not on that list. The Giants are not maximizing the players that they have. Now, that being said, I don't know if I want to go with that strategy because I won't be able to draft Cam Scadaboo. I feel like I really let folks down because in hindsight, it was kind of foreseeable that once Scadaboo got a chance, he was going to endear himself to fans, to coaches. So he's a good play this week because if anything, he may catch 6, 7, 8 balls out of the backfield. I don't know if they're going to be able to establish the run because their defense isn't going to slow down Justin Herbert. And then see, pick up the Chargers defense, right? I mean, put Malik Neighbors in, sure, but pick up the Chargers defense, because if we try to simulate it's the Giants, right? Is Jackson Dart ready? Is he going to look good? This feels like a desperate move, a move that's too predictable, a move that goes against, I think, what we've seen lately with young quarterbacks, which is it's better off giving them more time to watch before they have to face an NFL defense like the Los Angeles Chargers.
The final one, a banger, as the kids would say. I still think they say that. Eagles and Buccaneers. My goodness. Eagles side is where we'll start. And Saquon Barkley, will we see a little bit more like he did last year, or will Tampa Bay just continue to focus on that and say, yeah, go to A.J. Brown?
Yeah.
Please go to A.J. Brown, please.
Yeah.
Dallas Goddard continue to be used, and of course the Slim Reaper there as well. So yeah, this one's going to be a popcorn ready moment. And with the Broncos playing Monday night, I'll be able to watch.
And this is a game, again, where if you want to project the Philly offense, what stand are you going to take on the Philly defense? Because only last week when they fell down 26-7 in the second half did they open up the passing game, and it worked. Jalen Hurts was a good play. A.J. Brown was a good play. Devontae Smith was a good play. Dallas Goedert caught one ball. It was a 33-yard touchdown. If Baker Mayfield and company are successful enough, and that and company is the part we're going to get to that's questionable, then Jalen Hurts is going to have to open it up. But if not, I mean you got to play Saquon Barkley, but you can't run on Tampa either. So you also want to see, hey, Kevin Patullo, do you come in with a game plan, with a scripted drive, with a first half game plan to take advantage of what you can win in one-on-one matchups with Smith and Brown? Or are you just going to be stubbornly committed to the run unless you can get away with not doing it, not passing downfield, as we saw in the game against Dallas? Look how bad their secondary is, and they didn't really even test it. So I do think that this game could be disappointing for fantasy, but it's good to know that if Jalen Hurts is needed, he can put the offense on his back, on his arm, if you will. So I think, you stick with Hurts, you stick with Brown, you stick with Smith, but you need Baker Mayfield to play well for those plays to come through.
Yes, Baker Mayfield to play well, perhaps with Chris Godwin. Again, Wednesday morning, we got to wait. But last week, there were reports like, hey, it's not week 5 or 6. Godwin could be back in week 4. And without Mike Evans, again, Wednesday, we'll just make that assumption he's not going to play. Yeah, that'd be nice for Baker and company to get back a playmaker like Chris Godwin.
Yeah, they need him. I mean, Emeka Egbuka is going to be a big part of the pass offense. He's got to be in your lineup. If Godwin is back, I mean, knocking off the rust, boom bust play, I think you're still going to see a decent amount of Sterling Shepard no matter what. Offensive line woes. And another big question is whether Tristan Wirfs is going to be back. You see Baker Mayfield just scraping out these wins against good teams, like against Houston. But can he continue to do it against the defending Super Bowl champion? You just don't want him to take too many hits. Remember, he got banged up a few weeks ago. So a lot of Bucky Irving, I think you're going to see, and that's, you don't want him to get too banged up. I mean, how many times he touched the ball last week? 25 plus. So you want the Bucks, you want to get everybody healthy, but overusing players when everyone's not healthy could be an issue. And this is certainly a very physical Philly defense, but the Rams were able to move the ball through the air pretty easily against them with Puka Nacua on these short passes and run after catch. So maybe that's going to be the ticket with Ibuka and Godwin and Sterling Shepard in this one.
The ticket is, of course, listening to the Audible and subscribing to footballguys.com. We certainly appreciate you for that. If we had a tip jar out, it would be that. Just go to footballguys.com. Check us out. Subscribe if you'd like. We certainly appreciate your business as always. As again, 20 years of this show. So 20 years of thanking you guys because we're not here without you, and we appreciate you very, very much. He is Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on the socials at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible, saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everyone. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?